Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thanks so much for dropping by this video. So I got an interesting question. The evil, this is what someone wrote, the evil and the attention to the thoughts, which Bruno says, it's not, let me reread it again. The evil and the attention to the thoughts, it's not actually the egoic mind, the false self. So in essence, this person is asking, when Bruno talks about evil, isn't he talking about the egoic mind or the false self? Well, I love the question. And it's a question I've sat with, and I know many people have sat with. My spiritual history, I spent a lot of time in Eastern philosophy, specifically Hinduism, Buddhism, fair amount in Taoism, but a lot in Hinduism and a pretty fair amount in Buddhism. And in Hinduism, the root cause of all of our problems is called, as this person mentioned, illusion or ego. Hinduism has the concept of evil, but it's not really seen as the cause of all of our suffering. It's illusion or ego. In Buddhism, it's delusion or ignorance, which then gives rise to attachment. So I'm not a master. I'm not able to answer this person's question. And it's a profound question because it's asking about one of the fundamentals of life. All I can really do is share what I do on this channel, and I share what Bruno Gröning taught. And Bruno Gröning called it evil. He called it disorder. He called it dis-ease. One time he mentioned something that's similar to the concept of ego. And then when I say one time, I've only read about 2 or 3% maybe of, if even that much, maybe 1% of all that we have that Bruno Gröning, because most of it isn't even translated into English yet. Of everything that's translated into English that's publicly available, I've read quite a bit, maybe more like 50%. But of what's been translated into English, only a little bit. But here's one thing that Bruno Gröning said that was similar to the idea of ego. He said, "Whoever trusts in God's right hand has not built on sinking sand. That is the truth. That is reality. Everything else is just the self-deception and arrogance of ignorant human beings." So in essence, everything other than faith is self-deception and arrogance of ignorant human beings. So other than that, I've not come across him using words like ego. He, in one speech of his I read, he called it the inner swine. Here's why I like the word, at first I was like, that's ridiculous. Evil, like that's ridiculous. There's no such thing as evil. There's so many spiritual philosophies out there that deny the existence of ego. I personally think that's a huge problem. Hinduism is an interesting example. It doesn't necessarily say that evil is the root cause of all of our problems, but it doesn't deny evil either. But a lot of spiritual philosophies just straight up deny evil. And here's why that doesn't work for me. Because of some of the horrors in this world. I've suffered a lot in this life, and I know people who have, and I'm sure all of us have had some pretty excruciating experiences and suffering in this life, but it is nothing compared to some of the extreme travesties. I'll just say one word: torture. Torture's happening. I don't like to talk about negative things. I only bring things forth to hopefully make a point. There's some really horrific things going on this planet. And Bruno Gröning, here's the other reason why I don't think ego cuts it. Bruno Gröning pointed out that evil is trying to destroy the world. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter what you call it, but what is important is that you understand it. that we understand how nasty this thing is. You want to call it ego? Okay, but just make sure you're clear that ego wants to destroy this world, that ego is nasty. The German word for evil, Bosse, it also means nasty and vicious. The reason why I don't like ego, the term ego, is it's kind of like, it's easy to dismiss. Like, oh, it's just the ego, or oh, that's just ego, or oh, ego causes all the suffering. There's this way in which it's very easy to dismiss that. So if you're very clear that ego is a homicidal, suicidal, psychic entity that wants to destroy the world and that wants to destroy your life and literally wants to anyone see Lord of the Rings? You know, in this movie Lord of the Rings, there's this evil being, Sauron, who is literally like trying to come into the world, manifest into the world to destroy the world. So if you understand that evil literally wants, if you, well, again, whether you call it ego or evil, let's say, if you really understand that ego is trying to literally possess you and use you to harm other people, to harm life, then use the word ego. Use the word illusion. But we, Bruno Gröning said if we underestimate evil, that we're actually playing with it. And in truth, we're going to be played by it. Plagued and played by it. So on the one hand, it's just a word, evil, ego. But on the other hand, Bruno Gröning, in my view, was a master linguist. He chose his words so carefully. And the more I learn German, I am just in awe of his capacity to express things. And for me, ego, illusion, and delusion fell short of accurately, because all we're trying to do is accurately describe a phenomenon. Ego or evil is just a name. Who cares what we call it? But what we need to do is accurately describe the phenomena. And ego just doesn't do it for me. Now, there is one spiritual text, A Course in Miracles, which I have a lot of problems with a lot of it, but there's some of it I like. And in the earliest version, it says the ego is insane. The ego worships the crucifixion of the Son of God daily. Now, the Course in Miracles, that level of how insane and how vicious the ego is, I can get behind that, but that's not what most people mean by ego. A sadistic, psychotic, vicious, force, entity, or being. So I hesitated using ego for evil for so long. Partially, first because I didn't believe in evil, and secondly because I was afraid that other people wouldn't like it. Well, I've let go of the second, that other people won't like it, and I'm utterly convinced that Bruno Gröning has given us an accurate description of the force that we're up against. And so that's why I use the word evil. You could also just say the destructive. I often just, my understanding of it is ultimately evil is just that's what's harmful to life. But see, it's more than that. It's that which is actively seeking to harm life. And that's maybe one of my problems with the word ego. Ego sounds a little passive. According to Bruno Gröning, and again, if you don't believe me, then just make a decision. Just say to yourself, okay, today, no negative thoughts. I'm going to stay connected to God all day long, and I'm going to be guided by God all day long. Just make that decision and stick by that decision. And if you can do it all day long and you can do it day after day after day, then start a YouTube channel and write a book. Like, I'll come study with you. But what I'm saying is, make that decision and then try to stick by it and watch what happens. Watch the thoughts that come, watch the feelings that come, watch the external events that come to try and interfere with that goal. And then the other piece is just, we don't want to dwell on negative things, but really reflecting on the state of the world has led me to the feeling that, for me, led me to the feeling that yes, evil is a better description. Based on what I know that's going on in the world, and there's so much going on I don't know. So, beautiful question. As I said right at the beginning, I'm not qualified to give an answer because, I'm just sharing what Bruno Gröning taught, and I'm sharing my own experience with practicing his teachings. I guess the short version of this video is based on my own self-reflection and based on my reflection on the world. The word evil makes more sense to me. I don't like it. I don't, but it actually feels more accurate to me. Thank you so much for joining in. Thanks for your amazing question. Take care.